Greetings, Commanders! Alright, a couple weeks ago, developers approached us, said they want ideas for a new world battle, and it kind of got us thinking that, they wanted a new world event idea, and they let us send suggestions into them, which was kind of unprecedented. They rarely do developers ever want their players to give them direct feedback, but I don't know if it was like a Hail Mary, we're trying to listen to you guys, give us ideas from the developers because players were quitting. Or if they legitimately want ideas from us, maybe both. But it kind of got us going down this path, talking about what our game needs to be a better game. So this video today is about Rangers. I did a video about Rangers last week, and the idea is that Rangers are a very unique troop in the game. Not only do they work with bullet to take down massive, higher tier armies, but they're also worth 0 power. So you can have millions and millions of Rangers. It never shows in your ship because it doesn't calculate as power. As opposed to a tier 1 walker troop, a Yeti, which is worth 1 piece of power. Yeah, 1 piece of power. And that kind of says, okay, so in the galactic battles, when you go into them, in order to win, you have to score more points. And in order to score points, you typically kill troops or massacre their troops. So what's interesting about the Ranger is he doesn't give points because he's not worth any power. So commanders like Bullet are useful for, fighting in strongholds or fighting against big bosses and hopefully getting a point lead. Now, up until Season 5, it was a really big deal to score points because the only way to get points was to kill troops. Not anymore. In Galactic Battle, every 10 minutes, depending on the amount of ships on your side of the battle, you get points. So as a player that maybe uses tier suppression mini marches, 1 unit of tier 7 in the top row just to stop all the tier 1 marches, they could get away with that and still have enough points coming in, so it's not like a pure you only get points off troops battle. So that kind of opened the field up a little bit, which made a lot of sense. But we still have this problem that I think ALD's Bingo and 66 GBD 66 kind of ran into that we saw last season, is that once the Ranger battle is off the table, it's the big dogs doing the same thing over and over, and it's a bit tedious. And if you watch the finals live stream last season from last month or a couple weeks ago, basically what happens is ALD takes a point loss. They go behind in points because they're aggressive. They go to take the stronghold of the enemy, and TNB said, yeah, come to us, and we're just going to outscore you like crazy and keep clearing you from our capital and resetting the timers. And after a 2-hour stream, you realize the only way ALD is going to win is they keep this charade up where they go in, they sit on a stronghold, they use these massive armies, they have these massive year-long speed-up heal repairs, and frankly, it's boring. It's really boring for guys that spend $100,000, $500,000 on this game. You're talking guys that pay this kind of money for their entertainment, and when it's time to use their toys, it should be fun. It shouldn't be a 10-hour grind of doing the same thing that over and over. It's not that much strategy. It's a bit of a grind. So, going back to where this all started is that we need some kind of balance fixes. Now, I don't know if it's balance fixes or we need a new game position or we need a meta adjustment, but there are certain things that can be better. And one of them is Rangers. Rangers only work because they're infantry with infantry commanders. So we were thinking, okay, let's get some ideas bouncing around. What would make infantry more balanced so that everyone can play with Rangers and their main troops? So if you're a walker commander or an airship commander, you can still use Rangers to compete with low point battles as the game is kind of playing that first initialization. So what can we do? And I'll go in order. There's 3 ideas, 3 schools of thought. The first idea I thought was really good, and then I put it all on paper and I said, we need to get serious about this discussion. And this is going to be a longer video because I have thought this out, and I am afraid that if I make a bad suggestion now with the amount of following we have, I might end up playing a game I don't like. So I'm very careful about this suggestion. I did think about this a lot. So this first suggestion I don't think is a good idea, but it's an interesting one. And the idea was to make Rangers all troop types. And I'll go back and saying that the whole point of this video is named Power Loss Scoring System versus Troops Kilt Scoring System. So in other words, in Galactic Battle, to score points, you don't necessarily kill troops. You lower the enemy's power. And Rangers aren't worth power, so you don't score points. But people think that if you kill Yetis, you get points for killing the Yetis. That's not true. You get points for taking that a person's power level down. So when the galactic battle is going on and the scores are being calculated, they're not really calculating the troops that died. They're calculating the ships in the battle and what their final power was at the end. from an engineering and a coding perspective, that's very important. From a player perspective, it doesn't seem to matter that much. But when you propose a change or a fix, you might not realize the amount of work you're proposing on the developers to the point where they may as well just rebuild the whole galactic battle. Because there's all these elements to the galactic battle, but 90% of it might be cosmetic. The real hard part, the 10% that seems like it just fits in, is actually all the work. So this idea for the scoring system, I'm kind of throwing this out there not knowing how much work it actually is. But we'll talk about the concepts and we'll let the developers figure out what they want to do. So Rangers becoming all troop types. That was the first idea. That way, walkers and airships could use Rangers, just like infantry commanders can do Rangers. And instead of Rangers just being infantry, they would be able to trigger walker and airship skills. Right? See how it says they're currently infantry and then they're good against airships and they're weak against walkers? See that little graph? Walkers are they're just the next rotation of it. But when you get to tier 9, something different happens and you see 2. So what if infantry got the subtype airship and walkers? Now, I understand the problem with this is like, okay, if you're going to make infantry be able to trigger walker and airship skills, are they going to get the research too? Oh, yeah, that's kind of a problem. How do you do that? Do you do it like tier 9? So the tier 9 troops, as far as I know, tier 9 walkers, for example, only get your walker research. And they only have the infantry subtype there because they can trigger those skills. So, okay, let's say you do that. Do we make those the infantry able to trigger walker and airship but ignore all the research? Okay, fine, we'll ignore the research. That kind of is defeating the purpose of initially making them all troops type. But, for the sake of argument, just to make it funner to play with the walkers and airships, we let them have infantry able to trigger, or tier 1 infantry able to trigger all skills. Of course, now this beckons the question, what about their gear? Well, infantry only items are a thing, right? I mean, at the later game, people are probably going to be using Apocalyptors and Titans, which are all troop types, but Soul Eaters are infantry only, and I don't think that's really a problem. Most people don't play Phasma with those weapons in the game currently. I'm sorry, they don't play Rangers with Soul Eaters. They typically will play Titans or damage weapons. The weapons is kind of a concern. Like, how are you going to gear out your airship commander to use Rangers? And also, it affects SWE. How is Tier 1 infantry going to work in a SWE battle? Assuming they're worth 0 points and Tier 1 Yetis are worth 1 point, like it currently is. Are we going to allow Strength and Weaken to still work because they're triggering all troops types? I don't know. I mean, it's not the best idea. It definitely has some problems. It certainly could be fun, and I think there's just too many flaws compared to the other ideas we have. I do have notes about this, so I want to reference those real quick. So if I stop for a second, that's probably because I'm reading or making sure I'm not missing anything. Because missing something in a one-take video, not fun. I do not want to reshoot a 30-minute video. We have a simple troop type for low risk because posturing marches let other guilds. Yeah, and what's great about this idea is that it lets everyone kind of get involved, and you can posture and show your commander in a straight-up fight. Like, hey, you've got 80,000 Rogers, I've got 120,000 Stella. Yeah, we can go balls to the walls, or we can just kind of play Rangers mano-y-mano, and then winner take all, our champion versus your champion. There's just things you can do that way if they were more on a fair playing field. I almost want to say like Rangers could be like a peon unit that works with all troop types. That'd be kind of neat. But anyway, let's scrap that idea. Let's go on to idea number 2, which kind of sounded like a good idea at first, but I think kind of falls apart when you really look at it. Rangers becoming 1 point. So instead of walkers being worth 1 point and airships being worth, I don't think they're worth 10, and maybe they're worth 5, like half their unit value. They're worth more than 1, right? I think. They may not be. But infantry's definitely worth 0. Walker's definitely worth 1. And if you make infantry worth 1, then walker has to be worth 2, right? Because it's twice as big. You have to. Okay, so you got to scale that up. Let's ignore the logistics side of that. We'll let the developers work on that. There's also the issue of Rangers don't lower your power. Remember what I was saying earlier? That you get points by lowering your enemy's power. And if Rangers are worth 0 power, now whenever you kill a Ranger, the game has to calculate on its own how many Rangers died and then give you points that way. So that's an added complication. But let's talk about what balances the whole making Rangers worth 1 point. It fixes the rock, paper, scissors mechanism. And it gets rid of infantry being favored. And it kind of makes it like a fair playing field. If you want to go into a galactic battle and say, hey, everyone, we're only using tier 1. You have tier 12, we have tier 12. Why don't we just everyone duel it out tier 1 style and do it that way? That would be super fun. And of course, there's still speed up times, right? You still got to heal a ton of tier 1. That's a problem. I already proposed what we should do about healing tier 1. It should be 10 times faster. All healing should be 10 times faster. It shouldn't be so expensive to heal. They want us to play and fight. Let us heal our troops. Okay? All right. That's what's great about making Rangers worth 1. Every battle counts. There is no throwaway troop. The rock, paper, scissors mechanic comes back into play. It really is the way that everyone thought the galactic battle was. The very first time you went into galactic battle, who would have thought Rangers were worth 0 points? If you didn't know about Kill Event Weekend and Rangers were being worth 0 points, you would have assumed that Rangers should be worth 1 point. So it goes back to what makes sense in how the game is played and how we play it now, kind of. Because like I said, Kill Event Weekend, 0 points, kind of an issue there. Here's the main problem with the Rangers becoming 1 point. The idea of having an ignore tier suppression commander, like Bullet, having a low chance of landing a hit against tier 12 with tier 1 and scoring huge, it's not going to be feasible. Now, Thor CC pointed out in our last video and one of our previous videos that even if you have a 100k Bullet and you land a hit against a 100k tier 12, you're still going to outscore them like 4-1. But remember, Bullet is a 40% chance of triggering, and also, depending on the tier 12 player, they may have too much dodge for even basic gear on tier 1 to hit. So once you get down into like tier 7 and 8, ignore tier suppression skills like Ghost Cannon, Rangers versus tier 8, I don't think you actually would benefit points. It doesn't hit that hard. Tier 8's not worth that many points. So making Rangers worth points kind of gets rid of my entire play style, right? Or players that don't have the money to spend to compete with the tier 11, tier 12. So that kind of like a huge downside for me. I feel like one of the things that keeps players playing our game, especially the free-to-play, is the Bullet builds, being able to compete in galactic battle, being able to score big on weekends. And it is like an aspect of gambling. That 40% chance throwing those dice is a lot of fun for people, including me. So I don't like this idea. I'm going down it because it was proposed, but it does have a major flaw, and that's the problem I have. So the next one is yeah, and that's really it. Is Rangers being worth points makes it way more dangerous for low-level, mid-level players to fight in the normal galactic battle, because the higher-level players are just going to dominate them with research and gear, and skills in their commanders. It's not a great choice. So we're getting to idea number 3 pretty quickly. I'm glad about that. And it's not a secret. I've been talking about this for a long time. All tier 1 should be worth 0 points. Listen, you're still going to have to take risks, right? If there's a rock, paper, scissors matchup and a Rogers loads up with tier 1 in the garrison, yeah, you can use Rangers to try to break that Rogers like you normally would with a Stella and 1 slot bust him. But you're better off using 1 slot bust of a high tier and taking a risk, right? So making all tier 1 worth 0 points still forces players to take risk and use higher troop levels. So if you can commit your opponents to have to fight a match they can't win normally, or is dangerous for them to risk winning normally, they have to use higher tier, it makes it more fun. So you can stay on low all tier 1 throughout an entire fight, or you can force your opponents to escalate. I think it's a great balance. Of course, with that, you don't have to use just Rangers anymore, right? Walkers and airships can use their main gear on their same exact commanders. You don't have to switch up any of that stuff. Makes it real easy to switch over. Like if they just announce all tier 1 is worth 0 points, you wouldn't have to change anything. But now your main commander is useful in the first rounds of the galactic battle, and you don't have to escalate a fight unless your opponent wants to or you want to. SWE matchups are going to work again. Remember Strength and Weaken effect? That gear we got that was really awesome, and it made it so that walkers could not be damaged by infantry, and everyone was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And then tier 9 came out and kind of ruined it. Kinda, not totally, but kinda. We can make it useful again on tier 1 with Strength and Weaken gear. It'd be super fun. That makes a lot of sense to make Strength and Weaken gear totally viable again on tier 1. 0 points. Everyone will be like vying for position. Everyone who's a Walker commander right now that doesn't get to do anything in galactic battles finally gets to like jump in and be like, aha, I finally get to wreck these plasmas and Stellas. It's a great option. Now, those are the 3 major pros. I think they're kind of obvious too, right? I mean, it's not, the other pro is like, duh, everyone wants to play the game with their tier 1 counterpart with that, like infantry get to do now, without having to risk losing the game for their team. Okay, let's talk about the issues and why the developers haven't already done this. First thing I'll point out is money. At the end of the day, the developers still want to get paid. And if they make it possible that Galactic Battle can be just as fun with Tier 1 as it can be with Tier 12, people aren't going to play. Now, I understand that statement isn't well thought out. What I'm saying is they don't want the game to be Tier 1 Rangers. They kind of want that to just be the posturing up, buffing, warming up phase. They want Rangers to be like, the meat shield. They want people to get to their high tier right away because it's more expensive to heal. Players get to show it off. It's more important. Now, my proposal, my counter to that is that, hey, you're still going to have high tier. You're still going to need it. Players are still going to use it. It's just getting to that point. Everyone else gets to participate. And kill event weekends are a lot more fun. You say, well, yeah, if everyone's tier 1 is not worth any points in kill event weekend, no one's going to score any points. It's like, listen, it's not about scoring as much points as possible in kill event weekend. It's about scoring the most. It's not about the number. It's about doing the most. So it's about getting your opponents to escalate. So if you're fighting for a stronghold or a base on your server and you can convince your opponents to use higher tier because you're beating them with tier 1, it'll work. And you kind of have to do that already with Rangers now. It's just kind of out of balance with Rangers. So we'll get back to that. Okay. Tier 1 base stats for infantry, for whatever reason, seem significantly less strong than Walker and Airship. Does anyone notice that? Like if you take 100 Rangers versus 10 airships in equal gear and equal research on both sides, I am pretty sure the airships win. I should have tested that for this video, but this is a long video. I don't have time to do that. Although it is worth testing. If you want to test it, make a video, upload it to YouTube, tag me online, make sure you show your gear and stuff and your buddy's gear, whoever you test it with, to see if that theory is true. Because 10 hummingbirds, should lose to 100 Rangers. I don't think they currently do. I think they're like tier 1.5. I could be wrong. But that needs to be adjusted if they do that. Okay. The other major issue, and I touched on this at the beginning, is that points are calculated by power reduced and not troops killed. Troops killed. And because of that, we'd have to change the way the game is coded, right? In a sense, I don't know, like I said, I don't know how much coding is involved to fix that. I don't know if it's a major engineering problem. I don't know if it's the developers that can just write one bit of code and it fixes everything. But at the end of the day, when the developers are walking away thinking about this idea going, I don't know, is Melt onto something? Is the community onto something? Do we need to make all tier 1 worth 0 points? The answer is whatever the amount of work needed to make the change is, you need to do it. Don't get me wrong. Put your time and engineers into new projects, new ideas, new concept to take the game in a new direction. But you need to fix this fundamental problem. Infantry, Rangers should not be 0 points. Troops, power and damage should be calculated based on power, on troops killed and not power lost. I understand from a programming perspective how I could see if you just calculate the person's power the moment before the battle and the moment's their power after the battle, and you just add that or take that away from their score instead of counting up all the troops and their different values. That's probably a bit more work, but it doesn't seem like that much work. I don't know how to code it, but I know it's not that much work, and at the end of the day, it needs to be done. Something needs to be done. So we're getting to the conclusion of this video. Do you agree with me so far? You guys are members of this community. These were your ideas. Do you think any of them are bad now that you have time to hear me elaborate on the pros and cons of what's good and bad about them? Do you think all tier 1 being worth 0 points is the best solution? Did I miss anything? Should Rangers just become all troop types? And then there's something I missed in this rant or this dialogue. Put it in the comments below. Help out the channel. It's good for interaction. And the good comments below get super liked. So look in those comments. There's some great stuff in there. Trust me, a lot of my great ideas come from you guys. And you interacting with me helps me think. So check the comments. Like the good ones. Like the video. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon. YouTube homework done. Got to do that stuff. God, I hate doing that stuff. Okay. Let's get to the conclusion. Whenever you go down this path, you have to ask yourself, where are you trying to get, right? When you start going down this road, you don't just keep walking because there is no path in front of you. I have a destination I want to get to. I'll determine the path to get there once I know what I'm looking for, right? This isn't like the road traveled before me. I don't just follow the footsteps in front of me. Where we want to get is we want to get our free-to-play, low-spending, mid-range players continuing to play, playing more, and telling their friends about the game. Right now, I haven't even talked about the high spenders. Right now, a lot of players don't tell their friends they play this game. A lot of players, frankly, if their friends knew how much money they spent on this game, they would be embarrassed. They don't want to tell their friends. We need to change that. We need it to be way more friendly for free-to-play players. Now, I know there's cost with that. If we picked up 100,000 players, the server time alone is going to cost a lot more money. We need more money. But with more players who play the game, who like the game, we'll start giving back to the developers. If you have a good game, people innately want to play it more. They want to get the things you can buy, and they want to reward the developers for playing it. Now, some people are broke. Some people are in school. Some people just don't have the money. Some people are in debt. They can't pay. Fine. Hey, listen, one day they're going to be buyers, and everyone in your guild that is a spender needs 10 people that aren't to log in, socialize, send resource, rally behind. The community is a big part of this game. So we need a big community, and we need a lot of players, and not all of them are going to be spenders, and the developers need to embrace them. However, when embracing your free-to-play, low-spending players, you don't want to alienate the actual spenders, and you don't want to make it so that the actual spenders' values, what they've already paid for, gets diminished too much. Of course, there's a diminish. Everything comes off real expensive, and it gets cheaper over time. All the players should know that. Tier 12 is extremely expensive. It's not like spending a $100 pack. That's a long investment. So they have to be delicate with that, and that's on the developers to figure out how they want to do that. But if they lose their core base, and if they don't get more players playing, the game will fizzle out, and fast. Once 3 or 4 people quit, 4 or 5 people might quit, a guild might break up, then they all try to get into another guild, and that guild's full, and the next thing you know, you have 17 players that are just kind of in a guild that doesn't have any leaders, no one really likes each other. Maybe they log in today, maybe they don't, maybe they log in once a week, maybe they forget their shield, maybe they get 0, they never log in. That's how it happens. So you need more and more players to stick around. You need players playing in Galactic Battle. You need players feeling like they can really just jump into the Galactic Battle and get some cool replays against maybe some famous players or some name players, or go up against someone's famous Rogers. Like if you know you're going against Gan, right? If you like SR runs your opponent that week, you have a chance to go and fight one of the biggest ships in the Galactic Battle presence. That's a fun thing to say and do. Right now, as it stands, you might be able to throw a weenie or a ranger march at one of the big guys and hey, I got to fight him. But that's nothing there. But if you get into a tier 1 walker versus infantry fight against Gan, that's a cool story, and you have a fair chance. Now, granted, if he sends a full march at 1.6 million leadership, it's not so great, but you still get to do it. So, going back to this, the idea is, where are we going? And where we're going is we want players to play more. We want things in the game that keep people playing, keep people talking about it, and keep it accessible and affordable to the players that can't afford to spend the kind of money that big spenders do. But your big spenders don't spend the money without the little guys, right? How many players in your guild, if they didn't have the 37 or 50 or 70 other people to talk to, wouldn't play the game anymore? I can tell you all the spenders would just like, if there's no one here to flaunt and get behind me and rally behind, then I don't have a purpose. They're not going to play. So, we've already lost a couple big players. I'll keep saying this because it blows my mind. Bingo and 66 quit. That's a lot of money. Just between them alone, that's like probably $500,000 last year. Our game makes a lot more than that. Estimates of like 50 to 70 million since this game came out. So, $500,000 isn't that big of a deal, but it's 1%. I mean, that's still a lot, that pays everyone's salary at their company for the year, So, is switching Rangers and all tier over to 0 better for the high-end spenders? I think so. I think it's going to make their guild happier. I think the high-end spenders don't want to always have to go balls to the wall with their big armies. I think they'd rather have low-tier fights. I think they'd rather have less punishment for fighting with their 1.6 million leadership commanders. I think they'd like to have a 10 times faster speed up. And all these things do not take away from profit, because that's one of the things. We don't want to get into an idea where the developers hear our idea and say, well, it's just going to cost us money. No, this idea is going to keep players playing. It's going to keep bringing more people on, and it has almost zero effect on the bottom line. But with more players comes more money, more regions, more people, more connectedness. If you and 3 of your friends, or you and 1 of your friends play this game, and you play it a lot together, you're going to spend more money on it because it's something you guys do together. It's like going out for drinks. It's like playing League of Legends. You're going to buy those cosmetic skins. You're going to be happy to give them $10 because you like the game. You like the cosmetic skin. You like to contribute back to the developers that are giving you joy. It's just a natural reaction. So we need to enjoy it more. And the answer to that is tier 1. And I realize now I probably shouldn't have had this video. Okay, there we go. I think that covers it, man. I think that does it. Do you guys agree? Is that the best solution? Make all tier 1 worth 0 points. Figure out how the developers figure out how you want to change the scoring. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, make tier 1 0 points all the time. That way, people can't just build 10 million Yetis and raise their power by 10 million. I understand that in the mobilization event, you can gain 20,000 power and you get the quest and you can just build Yetis and it's super fast and cheap. Now you'll have to build tier 2. Not that big of a deal. Relax, okay? Make all tier 1 worth 0 points. Simple. That way, even on Galactic Battle weekends, in the kill event weekends, people can play with tier 1 without totally ruining it for their guild. Galactic Battle, they can play tier 1 without ruining their build. And then Galactic Battle, God, man, my words are fumbling. It doesn't sound like it when I'm saying it, but I know it's going to come back like that. It's going to make kill event weekends better. It's going to be even harder to score points. It's going to make Galactic Battles more fun for everyone if tier 1 is 0. And since participation is important and you need ships to gather natural points, people can just sit there and fight with their tier 1, not risking any points while just getting points for the team by being there. It's a natural fit for the game. All tier 1 should be 0 points. That's it. If you like the idea, like the video. Share it with your guilds. I don't know when we're going to do the rallying call for 7 pirates to change all tier 1 to 0 points. I think this video will be popular enough that it'll happen on its own. People will start mentioning it in the support tickets. I'm going to not just say what I was going to say because I don't want to have 7 pirates get 600 emails again, although that was hilarious. But it needs to happen. Yeah, that's it. Anything good in the comments, check below. There's always good stuff in the comments. And famous players. There's always famous players in the comments. If your YouTube name is not your Ark of War name, change it. So that way I know who you are, and we can super like your comment, and you can get your word out there. We want to hear what you have to say. So, that's it. That's the idea of the video. Kilt troops. That's how you get points. All tier 1 is worth 0 points. You got to kill troops to score, not lower power. Lowering power should not be how we score points. That's that. That's it. We're done. This is what I was looking for earlier when I totally lost my train of thought. It's probably the thumbnail of this video. But killed troops, that's how scoring should be done. Not power loss. And that's a kilt. Troops kilt. Troops kilt. I spelled it wrong. It's stuck in there. Troops kilt. New scoring system. That's what we want for Season 7. We still got time. We're only in Week 1. Troops kilt scoring system. Let's push that. All right. I don't know if this is the end of the meta rant. This is definitely, I said in a while back, we were going down a road. This is where we ended up. This is definitely a good start. There are still some issues with the late game. Like I said earlier, ALD and Season 6 finals basically had like 10 hours of grinding, expensive grinding, and this is what people that have that kind of money to spend on entertainment don't want to deal with, that kind of repetition. So there is some late game fixes we need to work on. Let's at least take care of the core base now. We'll worry about the spenders next. That's it. If you have ideas for how to fix the late game Galactic Battle without totally changing the arena, which is we need ideas for that too. Let me know. All right, add me online. Line's better than YouTube comments as well, but both are good. Melt AOW. Check the description below. Message me personally. I'll invite you to the groups. And if you have any great ideas, hit me up. All right, that's the end. We'll talk to you later.